world, welcome to my world.
So there's not a lot of research on K-pop. I looked up K-pop psychology and I found exactly one study that only included the abstract, so I don't know the data or even the procedures that they are talking about. That is to say, this video is making a lot of assumptions. I am applying psychological principles I've learned about to the world of K-pop, but I am not a researcher, I have not done any experiments. Basically just take everything I say with a grain of salt. I am fairly educated on the topic of psychology, but that doesn't mean everything I say is true. That's just not the case. If I do or hear about any experiments involving K-pop, which I do hope happens, I will share what I have learned from that experience, but today's video is educated speculation, for lack of better terms. Now that that's clear, I think we can move forward. I really wanted to focus on the modern K-pop comeback because I was not part of the K-pop world until recently, and I am most familiar with the industry as it is today. And one of the biggest changes I have seen over the course of my time as a fan is the utilization of the YouTube Premiere feature. I think this is an amazing way to build up the hype for a new release. There was a study where men would walk on either a suspended bridge or a sturdy bridge, and a woman would approach them and ask if they wanted her number. If they were on the suspended bridge at the time, they would experience more arousal, and the men would often think that they were attracted to the woman because they misattributed that extreme arousal. I think the premiere feature is similar, and I know that sounds extreme. I just mean that we experience more arousal when we are watching these videos for the first time with an entire chat full of people also responding in real time. And we also might attribute that arousal to our opinions of the song. In the same way that the men thought they were attracted to a woman, we think we love these songs because it's such an intense experience. I think it's this same kind of thing as when an artist drops an album without any warning, or even when songs have very unique structures. We're all just so taken aback that a lot of the time it affects our feelings toward whatever release we're taking in. That isn't to say that these things always produce a positive response, but they do tend to elicit extreme responses. At the same time, exposure to new and intense situations is not the only means of making people like what they hear. It would be wrong to deny the effects of mere exposure. Mere exposure is basically the principle that we tend to like things more as we are continuously exposed to them. So while Blackpink may be criticized for the repetitive structure of their songs, that repetition is actually, to an extent, a marketing tool in order to make fans enjoy the song more. They like Blackpink's style because they've been exposed to it over and over and over again. That being said, people also learn to habituate things that they experience over and over. I think this is another reason why we might like the songs more as we listen to them more. We learn to tune out the parts of the song that we don't like in favor of paying attention to solely the parts we do like. I personally like aespa's Savage, but I hate the novice We Love You part in the bridge, so I'm hoping my brain will learn to pay less attention to it as I continue listening to the song. I think a notable characteristic of K-pop versus Western pop is the strong emphasis on visuals, whether that be the actual physical appearances of idols in videos or the dances they perform. K-pop music videos and performances are distinct, memorable, and visceral. I think there are a lot of positive aspects of this. Have you ever looked out the window while you're in the car and pretended to be in a music video? It's a location that triggers memories of scenes we've seen in the media. When you watch the Likey music video and see Nyan on her bike, it brings up memories of you riding your bike down the street. And who knows, the next time you're doing that very thing, you might be reminded of Nyan and pretend to sing about the detrimental impact of quote-unquote likes on society. We are able to remember things better in the same context we learned them in because of memory cues. One odd experiment that comes up in a lot of psychology classes is the experiment where people learned vocabulary either on land or underwater and were tested in the same environment or the opposite environment. And people consistently perform better when they are tested in the same place that they learned the information in. I'm not saying every video has a do you remember where you were when it dropped effect, but if I first watched the I Can't Stop Me music video at my desk, I might subconsciously think of listening to it more readily there than I would think of listening to something else, because these videos are so are so memorable, and so many of us make a conscious effort to stay up and watch them and all of that, that we will remember our surroundings or even internal cues, even if it's not always consciously. We have also obviously been stuck inside for long periods of time in recent years, so memories are constantly being triggered because we're staying in these same locations that cue memory. It's also just basic neuroscience. Like, K-pop fans are pretty well known for being intense, and that we often make the same synapses fire when we do things like repeatedly watch a music video, for example. And when those synaptic connections become stronger, they're even more likely to fire. Basically, every part of human life goes back to synapses, particularly those in our brain. Let's all say it together: thank God for neuroplasticity. But like I said, it's not just looks that are important, it's dances. So many of us learn the dances to our favorite songs, and even if we can't dance, we can do some of the cute hand movements in most Twice songs at the very least. It's a case of semantic encoding and elaborative rehearsal. We learn to properly dance to and relate the song to our own abilities, again leading us to stream them way more often. That being said, there is some research on K-pop and music in general, and I feel it is important to share. First of all, according to Lafon, I want to say is how you say his name, being part of the K-pop fandom actually predicts increased happiness as well as increased self-esteem and social connectedness. Another study suggests that music has three functions, including regulation of arousal and mood, as well as self-awareness and expression of social relatedness. The first two seemingly more important than the latter. They believe that music's primary purpose is for social cohesion and communication. There are a bunch of other benefits to listening to music, however, ranging from improvement of cognitive performance to reduction of pain to making you eat less. I will leave more information in the description, so if you want to learn more about this, you can access the sources I'm referencing. With that all being said, though, I think we all know that the K-pop industry is both extremely intelligent in terms of their marketing and such, but they are also genuinely important to many of our lives. I think it's important to recognize the means by which this music takes over our lives, while also acknowledging the great power it has to improve our lives. If you'd like to see more of my videos, I have various analyses that I've made recently, and I also may discuss this topic again in the future, so I would love it if you would leave a like and subscribe. That being said, have a great rest of your day. Bye!